This project builds on our GCP RStudio cluster project. That project uses a managed instance group to deploy an RStudio cluster. I'll include a link at the top to that project. Our goal here is to build a scalable cluster of RStudio servers running on Google Kubernetes Engine. This approach uses containers as the runtime instead of VM instances within a managed instance group. We'll begin by provisioning the mini Active Directory instance. This provides centralized authentication for our users. As part of the AD setup, several sample users are created. Their credentials are stored securely in Google's Secrets Manager. Next, we'll deploy a file store share using NFS. Once provisioned, this will give us persistent home directories for each user and a shared R library where packages can be installed for all users. We'll also provision an NFS gateway server and a Windows AD admin server to manage the domain. During the demo, we'll log into the AD admin box to add a new user and also show how the storage appears as the Z drive from the NFS gateway server. Next, we'll create a Google Artifact repository and use Docker to build a custom RStudio Server image. This image includes compilers and system tools required for building and installing our packages and directly into the shared storage for all users. Only members of the RStudio admins group is allowed to install packages for all users. For the runtime, we'll deploy a GKE cluster with a single node pool. The maximum number of nodes for this node pool is 4 nodes. A horizontal scaler will add nodes to the deployment when the average CPU utilization exceeds 60%. Once the cluster is up and running, we'll deploy the RStudio application manifest YAML. This contains a secret containing AD and domain configuration, persistent volume claims backed by NFS, a deployment for the RStudio containers as pods, a load balancer ingress for external access, and a horizontal pod autoscaler for scalability. Once all components are deployed, an Nginx load balancer provisions automatically. This gives users a simple web login interface where they can sign in using their AD credentials stored in Secrets Manager. You can start working with RStudio with those credentials immediately after the build completes. Now let's cover the prerequisites for the project. We do have a video out there called GCP and Terraform Easy Setup. I'll put a link at the top to that. That is a very simple Terraform project in the GCP environment that walks you through what you need to create in the console. Essentially, you need to create a build identity for your projects and then extract out the credentials.json that you'll plug into the builds. So what you need to build this project is you need that Google Cloud account along with that credentials.json. You need the gcloud CLI, you need Terraform, you need kubectl, and then you need Docker. Now we are ready to build the code. So what you want to do is go back to the GitHub documentation and grab this git clone command, copy that, and go into your development environment. I'm using Ubuntu, and I'm going to paste that in. And that's going to go download the code from GitHub and put you in the right directory. So the first thing you want to do on our projects is you want to run checkenv. And it's going to go through and make sure you meet all those requirements. Now it comes back and it says, hey, your credentials.json doesn't exist. If you go back to the video about Terraform setup, this is where you need to extract this out of the console for your credentials. And so we've done that. So I'm going to go to my project here. I'm going to click upload. And I'm going to upload from my laptop the credentials.json that I downloaded from the console. Okay, so now I should do checkenv. And it comes back and says, okay, I can get in. Now that's the first step. Now the second step, this is unique to GCP, is you have to enable all the APIs you're going to need. So we have a script called API setup. You can run that, and it'll take a few minutes the first time you run, and it'll enable all the APIs for the build. Now we are ready to do the build. So I'll do apply.sh. Now the apply takes about 30 minutes to build. As always, if you have any comments about this video, this is the last in the RStudio series, and I've gotten a lot of dislikes on this, but this is it. This is the last one. If you have any other comments about this, please leave it at the bottom. The build has completed, so let's go into the console and take a look at what got built. We'll start by looking at the VM instances that have been provisioned for this build. Well, first we have 5 instances. The first one is the mini AD instance, which is our identity provider for this project. Next, we provision an NFS gateway server, which we attach to our NFS storage, and we present Windows SMB links from our shared storage. Finally, we've got the Windows AD admin box. This is the box we'll use in the demo to log in to add users. The other 2 instances are part of the managed instance group that Kubernetes or the Google Kubernetes Engine provisions on your behalf. As a part of the AD provisioning, we deploy several sample user accounts, we randomize passwords, and we put the pass results here in Secrets Manager. What you'll do is go into the specific secret, like Raj Patel. Then we can do view secret value, and that's going to give you the username and password to log in as that user, both on the Windows AD box and also as a part of the RStudio application. We also deploy NFS storage using Filestore. We use the cheaper tier. It still provisions 1 terabyte. It only supports NFS version 3. And this is the storage that we use for home directory. So everybody gets the same home directory no matter which node they hit in the cluster. And also the shared library, the shared R libraries, which allows that the admins can install R packages for all users into the shared storage. Next, we have the Artifact Registry. I often mispronounce it and call it repository. This is where we use Docker to build the RStudio image. So it's an RStudio repository. It has the one RStudio image that we're going to use in our YAML during the deployment. For the runtime, we deploy a Google Kubernetes instance. As a part of that instance, we've got that default node pool, which is auto-scaled from 1 to 4. We've already looked at the managed instance group. Those are the 2 instances we saw before. And this is, again, the autoscaler does that. Under storage, you can see we have the persistent volume claims that we use. In the console, we also have this object browser, which is a bit like kubectl. And what I've done is I pre-configured it, and I've shown everything that our YAML deploys. So we've got the pods, which is actually the instance of the container, the secrets that provides the ability to connect to AD to authenticate, the persistent volume claim, the ingress for the actual end user access to the web page, and then you have the horizontal autoscaler that flexes between 1 and 4 nodes depending on CPU utilization. We can also go over back to our development environment and say Google kubectl is glued up to this cluster as a part of the build. So I can say git nodes, and it'll show you the nodes that are there. We can say kubectl git pods. You should see the 2 instances running. If I do kubectl logs RStudio 0, you can see the logged into AD and all that good stuff. It's kubectl git ingress. That's going to be the actual load balancer. And then I think it's kubectl git pbc to get the persistent volume claims, and then kubectl git secrets. You can also see the full YAML here in the main directory if I go to RStudio app.yaml. You can see all of that's laid out in one YAML file. So that's the deployment for Kubernetes. To access the system, the first thing you want to do is you want to run validate again. So I'm going to copy this URL right here. I'm going to go back to my web browser. I'm going to pop that in. And it's going to come back and say, okay, who do you want to log into? Now we're ready to use those Active Directory groups and users that we loaded in originally. So I'm going to go back to Secrets Manager, and we're going to log in as R Patel. So I'm going to grab R Patel's password here, put it into the login page. Once you log in, the first thing you'll notice is in the Files pane, we've got the references to the file store storage. If I go to NFS in here and go into GCP RStudio cluster, you'll see that the project has been downloaded onto the storage. And what this gives us is quick access to some samples. So I'm going to click on R samples, and I'm going to do the cowboy hat. I'm going to run that. And you'll see the cowboy down here. There's other packages in here like the walk simulation. This will generate some synthetic data and graph it. So every time you run it, you'll get something different. And what else do we have? We've got the volcano plot at source. So we've run a couple of these test programs. Now let's go to the terminal session. And in the terminal, I'm going to do ID. And this is where you're going to get all those UID, GID numbers that we talked about in the documentation. And so Raj Patel is 10,003. He's a member of these groups. And most importantly, he's a member of the RStudio admins group. This means if I go to my console here and I do -, paths. This shows where everything is installed. We have a home directory. Everybody can install packages in their home directory. But then we have the NFS R lives. And that being a member of RStudio admins means that I can install packages for all users. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here and go to our packages. And I'm going to click on this install packages, and I'm going to run that line. Now what it's going to do is download the code and actually compile it. Now it may take a few minutes to run because it's actually compiling a bunch of stuff. Okay, the build has completed for the GSL package. And what you'll notice is it did the compiling, but since I installed it into NFS RLibs here, the users, subsequent users, do not have to install this packages. This has been installed for all users, so you only have to compile it once if you're an admin and stick it in RLibs. Now, if I'm not a member of RLibs, and we'll show that with the new user that we had in there, I can still install packages, but I have to compile them, and everybody has to do them. So it's a matter of whether you're installed in a shared location or you're in home directory. Everybody can install in the home directory, but only admins can install the shared location. The next part of the demo is we are going to log into the Windows AD box, create a new user, and then show that user in RStudio. So what you want to do is go back to your validate output and grab the Windows IP address. Copy that. Then you want to bring up a remote desktop connection. I'm going to click on this. And again, we're going to use rpatel. Copy the password from the secrets. Paste that in here. Then wait for the session to come up. It may take a few minutes the first time. And so the first thing we're going to do is look at the Z drive. And so you might have noticed in the documentation that users have to have a unique UID number. So we have a script here. If you go to the Z drive, there is in the GCP RStudio cluster project, there are some utils, and one of them is get next UID. So I'm going to run that, and it's going to run through and ask the domain controller what is the next UID to use. And the next UID to use is 10,005. That's going to be our mCloud user. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to go and do Windows Administrative Tools. I'm going to click Active Directory Users and Groups. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to put in the View Advanced Features. That will allow me to set UID, GID numbers, etc. So I'm going to click on the main directory, and I'm going to go to Users, and I'm going to say New User, and I'm going to say Mike Cloud, and I'm going to use the user login of mCloud. Hit Next. I'm going to say password never expires for this demo, and I'm going to put in a password. You put your password in here. All right, hit Finish. Now we're going to click on the item here, and we need to set those UID, GI numbers for it to show properly on Linux. So the first thing we're going to do is go to GID number, and GID number, the RStudio users group, which is 10,001, that's the group number for that. I'm going to set that as the default group for this. Then I'm going to go to the bottom here, and for UID, I'm going to put mCloud. For UID number, that's the 10,005 that script gave us, so I do 10,005, hit OK, hit apply, hit OK. Now I'm going to bring it out one last time, and I'm going to go to member of, and I'm going to add a member of RStudio users, and I'm going to say this guy's in the US. I'm going to say the US group, and so it's a member of RStudio users in the US group. Note, it's not a member of our admin groups. So we're going to leave that out and show what happens when you try to install into the shared location. So I'm going to apply. Okay, so one last thing to try here is I'm going to go back to this get next UID number. I'm going to run that. And it should say 1,006. So it's 1,006 because 1,005 is 10,005 is now the mCloud user. So at this point, we're ready to log in into RStudio Server. I'm going to do mCloud, and I'm going to use the password I put in on the previous step. So we're into our environment just like before. So I'll go to NFS, RStudio cluster, our samples. Let's do saddle surface. Run that. I think they call that the Pringles chip. So I've got that, and so you'll notice if I go to terminal, I do ID, you'll see I have 10,005. I'm an mCloud user. I'm a member of RStudio users in the US, not the RStudio admins group. So what happens if I go back to the files and I say packages? I say install this guy right here. So if I say run, it's going to come back and say, hey, it's not writable. You can't do this. So if you want to install this package, you need to do it in your personal library. Personal library is your home directory. So I'm going to say yes. And it's going to go through and now compile that just for me and put it in my home directory. So let's go back to packages, and you're going to see we've got the user library here. And that shows that this is things. If I click on that, I can use it, and we're good to go. If I go back to files and I go to home and I click on R, you're going to see that's where it installed it. It installed it in my home directory. So this is just for me, not for all users. Okay, we're done with everything in the demo. So now the only thing to do is to be a good steward of your cloud account and to clean up everything. So I'm going to log out. And of course, we're going to run the destroy script. Now, the destroy takes about 10 to 15 minutes.